Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you're all doing well. Today we are going to learn about the C sharp, and in here I will show you 4 introduction to C sharp language programming. Let's get started. Prerequisites. This module assumes that you understand the fundamentals of programming and object-oriented programming. And for programming, I hope you understand about the variables, statement, functions, loops, etc. And for object-oriented programming, I hope you understand about classes, inheritance, polymorphism, members, and extra. And I hope also you understand about the C++ or Java. Learning objectives. C# design goals. Fundamentals of the C# language. Be able to begin writing and debugging C# programs, and be able to write individual C# methods. 4 fundamentals of the C# language: about types, program structure, statements, and operators. And 4 writing and debugging C# programs, about using the .NET Framework SDK and using Visual Studio.NET. Agenda, and in here there are agenda that I will show you, starting from Hello World design goal of C#, types, program structure, statements, operators, using Visual Studio.NET, and using the .NET Framework SDK. And today we just learn 2 agenda. These are Hello World and design goals of C#. Hello World. If you want to create code on the C# programming, for starting, you can see on this board how to write code on your program, especially in C# language. You need using system semicolon, and you starting with class hello, and don't forget to write curly bracket in the first, and the end you close with the close curly brackets, and you can start writing code static void main, and you don't forget to write parentheses like this, and you write your string in here, hello world, like this: console dot write line hello world, console dot read line semicolon in here, and enter to finish. Next agenda, design goals of C#. Design goals of C#, the big ideas: component orientation, everything is an object, robust and durable software, and preserving your investment. Design goals of C# component orientation. C# is the first component-oriented language in the C or C++ family. What is a component? An independent module of reuse and deployment, coarser grained than objects. Objects are language-level construct, includes multiple classes, often language independent. In general, component writer and user don't know each other, don't work for the same company, and don't use the same language. Design goal C# component orientation. Component concept are first class. Enables one-stop programming. For component concept are first class, such as properties, methods, events, design time and runtime attributes, integrated documentation using XML. Enables one-stop programming, no header files, IDL, and extra can be embedded in ASP pages. Design goals of C#. Everything is an object. Traditional views. C# unifies with no performance cost, improve extensibility and reusability. For traditional views, C#, Java, primitive types are magic and do not interoperate with objects. Small talks, libs, primitive types are objects but at some performance cost. C# unifies with no performance cost, deep simplicity throughout system, improve extensibility and reusability. New primitive types, decimal, SQL, and extra. Collection, extra, work for all types. Design goal of C# robust and durable software, garbage collection, exceptions, type safety, versioning, avoid common error, one-stop programming. For garbage collection, no memory leaks and stray pointers. Exception, type safety, no uninitialized variables, no unsafe cache. Versioning, avoid common error. Example, if parenthesis x is equal y. One-stop programming, fewer moving parts. Design goals of C# preserving your investment. C++ heritage, interoperability, increased productivity. C# heritage, namespaces pointer in unsafe code, unsigned types extra. Some changes but no unnecessary sacrifices. Interoperability, what software is increasingly about. C# talks to XML, swaps, COM, DLLs, and any .NET framework language. Increased productivity, short learning curve, millions of lines of C# code in .NET. The intent of this module is to teach the C# language and how it differs from C++ and Java. It is not the intent of this module to teach how to program. I will start from the first about the prerequisites this language. About the design goals of C Sharp. First of all, C Sharp was designed from the ground up to support components concepts like events, method, and properties. Second, everything is an object, which allow us to create some really clean designs. Third, it was designed to make it easy to create robust and maintainable software. And finally, it should be able to integrate easily with everything that already exists, preserving your investment. Design goals of C Sharp. C Sharp is component oriented. But first, what is the component? The definition of a component is still contentious. However, there is agreement that components address issues of reuse and deployment, as opposed to objects, which are language-specific concepts. And you have to think about the difference between component and object. If you use component, you can reuse of this component, but for the object, just for language specific concept. Component versus component versus object. It has a different character. C# is a component-oriented language. First of all, C# was designed from the ground up to support components. It is the first language in the C or C++ family to support the concept of components. But what defines a component? Basically, it is not only classes and methods, but also properties and events. It is not that it's not possible to do component-based development in C++, but you must rely usually on coding conventions like to define a property. Let's name this method as get something and set something. If you want to support events, then it means that you need to implement this and that interface. In C#, the concept of properties, methods, and events are all native. In fact, C++ only supports the concept of methods. Just as an analogy, it is not impossible to write object-oriented programs in C. It is only harder than in C++. The same applies to component-based development in C++ versus C#. Also, when you move to component-based development, you have to think in a number of other factors like separate files to describe my components, like header files in C++, IDL to describe component interfaces, and so on. In C#, none of these are needed since it has built-in support for these concepts, enabling what we call one-stop programming, so everything can be described in the source code instead of requiring separate files. Design goals of C#. Everything is an object. There are two different schools here. The purists like small talks, where everything is an object, and C++ or Java, where primitive types are treated differently for performance reasons. Typically, when everything is an object, it means that every time that you do a simple operation like adding two numbers, it will incur on a heap allocation, which is quite expensive from the CPU standpoint compared to a stack allocated piece of memory. On the other hand, when languages treat primitive types as magic types, it means that if you implement a generic class like a collection or array, it is not truly generic because you either have to implement one version for each primitive type or you have to write wrapper classes to each of the primitive types so they can behave as an object. In C#, it is possible if you declare a primitive type. It is created on the stack with all performance benefits that this brings. However, it is possible to assign an integer to an object, and the runtime will automatically allocate the memory on the heap to accommodate the integer and treat it as an object. This happens automatically without requiring the programmer to write a wrapper class. Just as a side note for VB programmers, you can compare a stack allocation to a stack of paper where you can only write to the top page. As soon as you enter a function or sub, you get a new page and you're done. Exit the function. You just throw away top page. Let's say the garbage management is really simple in this scenario. Heap allocation is like having multiple pages at your disposal, and also they don't necessarily vanish when your function ends. You can imagine that it is a lot more complex. Because a piece of data on page 2 could be disposed, but another piece on this same page could still be needed by a different part of the code. In other words, a lot more management is necessary. Design goals of C#. Prevent common mistakes from other languages. C# has a lot of features to make it easier to create robust software. Every C++ programmer knows how easy it is to have a pointer to an object that was already deallocated. C# provides automatically garbage collection through the common language runtime. Also, if you think about how errors were handled in most of the code today, they are mostly based on checking return code. Exception provides a way to write a less code while at the same time providing a much more robust error handling mechanism. Not only exception handling is implemented in the language, but it is also a inherent part of the .NET framework. Another point is that all variables are automatically initialized and it is impossible to do unsafe cast. Finally, C# is one of the first languages that provides a versioning semantics to easily support old and new clients. Design goals of C#. Leverage C# knowledge. Interoperability and rich class library. First of all, since C# was based on C++, C++ programmers will adapt really quick. Second, interoperability is a key theme in the .NET framework, so it is really easy to integrate C# code with existing applications. Finally, the .NET framework provides a very rich set of services that will make developers really productive. I think enough for explanation about this learning about C#, and today we just learn about Hello World and design goals of C#, and next time we will continue this agenda tabs and program structure. If you have any question about this agenda, Hello World and design goals of C#, you can comment on below this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share this video. See you next time and goodbye.